Everybody must be watching the clock. Everybody got so quiet. Thought I was in church or something. So it is 9 o'clock, so we'll begin. You probably noticed that we got some new folks sitting up here at the table today. First of all, we're just delighted that Candace has accepted the governor's invitation to be the Commissioner of Education. We're looking forward to great things and certainly a lot of cooperation and needed cooperation between the department and state board. So we want to welcome you. Any comments for the?
I want to say thank you as well. Is this on? First question is I've got to learn to use the microphone, but thank you as well. I look forward to working with you, and the folks that I've had a chance to talk to and meet are delightful, so thank you for the opportunity.
Great. And also we're delighted to have Sarah as the Executive Director of the State Board. Looking forward to great things there, and we've gotten off to a great start. And Sarah, we certainly want to welcome you.
Great. Thank you, Chairman. I'm excited to be here. This is a tremendous board, and I have the utmost confidence that we are capable together of charting the course with Candace and with our stakeholders across the state. So thank you, and happy to be here.
Great. We also have Betty Davis Dandridge Johnson sitting in. I don't know, Rich Rhoda sat in that position for years and years and years. I don't know how many years he sat right there, but we're certainly, Betty, glad to have you recognizing THEC and representing THEC on this board. So.
Thank you, and I'm here on behalf of our interim executive director, Dr. Russ Deaton, so it is a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Okay. We also have a new board member that's been appointed, Bill Trout. He is the president of Rhodes College. He's been the president of Rhodes College for more than 10 years. He has about 30 years as being a college president. He's been involved in all kinds of national education committees and agencies, so forth. Brings a great background. He could not be with us today, but he'll be joining the board as the representative of the 9th Congressional District. So we're looking forward to having him on the board. We begin with our agenda. The first items on the agenda are the consent items. One change in the agenda, we're going to remove item 3C from the agenda, and we're going to do some additional work on that, and we'll need to come back to a later meeting with that one. But we also have the minutes, the teacher principal evaluation policy, which is pretty straightforward, and then something we do basically every year relative to special courses. They are the items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion that we approve the consent agenda? Got a second? Got a second? Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent items are approved. We'll move to the items on first reading. The first item is the Charter School Authorizer Policy 6.110. Tesh?
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, board members. Today, I present to you on first reading a policy that is needed in the area of charter school revocation. And this is part of the State Board's suite of authorization policies. Now, the State Board is an appellate authorizer of charter schools. So this policy sets forth the process and criteria the State Board will use when considering, first, an appeal of an LEA's decision to revoke a charter agreement of their own authorized school, and second, dealing with the revocation of a charter agreement when the State Board serves as the authorizing authority. This policy is in agreement with national authorizing standards and was developed in conjunction with NACSA. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions? Wendy?
I had a conversation with the staff about this, but I just wanted to make sure we clarify. In Part 2A, the language on revocation when a school is identified as a priority school, my understanding is that is in accordance with the automatic closure law that was passed last year, and my question is around the language in the second sentence under A, such revocation shall take effect immediately following the close of the school year after the school was identified as a priority school. And my question is there a way to bring some clarity around that? Because I could read that as the school has to close that year, like the year, or I could read it as they have another year and then the next year, the year after, they have to close. So if we could get some clarity on that.
And I'm going to let Angie take that.
I'm Angie Sanders. I'm the new general counsel for the state board. Thank you for your question. The reason we included this language is it's the exact language from the statute. As you probably know right now, there's been some confusion, so you definitely hit the nail on the head with this language. Right now, we are interpreting it, as well as I believe the department, as that means that they would close the same school year that they were identified as a priority school. There have been some bills filed on this issue, so I think it's good to keep the language that's in the statute currently, because if there's an attorney general's opinion or if the law changes, then we can change our interpretation of it. We can always go back and change the language, but because it's in kind of such an area of flux right now, I think it's best to keep the language that's in the statute. So until we get a little bit more clarification after the legislative session.
Great, thank you.
Well, just to be clear, what is the current interpretation?
Our current interpretation is that they would have to close the same school year that they're identified as a priority school at the end of the school year.
Okay. Other questions? Any other questions? Is there a motion that we approve on first reading? Got a motion? Second? Got a second? Any other discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Tash. Thank you, Angie. You know, maybe I meant to get you to introduce our new staff members, and I forgot that. And Angie and Nathan, Sarah, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that briefly. Nathan James, who's on the front row down here, we are happy to have joining us at the State Board as Director of Legislative Affairs, among other duties, but really looking to Nathan to continue to build our partnerships and communication with the General Assembly. And then obviously also Angie Sanders, who just introduced herself as our new legal counsel. We're thrilled to have both of them on board.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, we'll now move to items B, C, and D, and if we can, we'll address those as one item. So, Danielle, the court standards.
Thank you. And before I jump into those items, if I can provide just some quick context. With the first and final reading courses submitted for your approval, we will be concluding our comprehensive review of all state-approved CTE courses. With that in mind, I do want to call your attention to several.
The material that you mail out every time will be reduced substantially.
Yes, your back will feel much better when you carry these things with you. With that in mind, I want to call your attention to several documents that were distributed prior to the start of the meeting. The first includes a bundled group, which the cover sheet is a summary sheet. It includes a breakdown of courses and programs of study changes all the way through. So as I mentioned, all courses, the top of that sheet just provides you a quick breakdown of courses that were added, revised, or deleted over this entire process. The second piece is on the summary sheet is a specific breakdown of the number of reviewers for the final reading courses that you have before you today for approval. And then lastly on that summary sheet is an overview of the upcoming PD and training events that are planned to complement the final reading courses. I think that was a question that Ms. Hartgrove had yesterday, and just want to make sure that I put that in there for the board today. Additionally, in that bundle, you have a breakdown of course reviewers by career cluster, as well as the labor market snapshot that helped assist in spotlighting the opportunities within Tennessee. So you have context as well as reviewers tied to each of the course standards that were revised or added. Lastly, on that legal size sheet, you have a comprehensive list of all of the course standards reviewers sorted by career cluster. So you have that available to you for one easy review or reference. Additionally, you have before you course standards sheets that contain slight word changes to select courses based on feedback I received from Ms. Hargrove yesterday. The changes correct a spelling error and some word tenses, as well as the addition of an example in our Intro to Business course, which is up for first reading and which she had mentioned yesterday during the board workshop period. These changes are noted in highlight, and each notes which course it derived from, as well as where it can be found on today's agenda. None of these changes reflect changes to the content or the intent of the content of those standards. So I just want to make sure you guys have that before you. Going on to first reading items B through D, these reflect changes to courses found within the architecture construction career cluster, business management, and marketing career clusters. I do want to call attention to the architecture construction courses, which reflect additions to the MEP program of study, which stands for Mechanical, Electrical, and Plumbing program of study. After additional conversations with several trade associations, I agreed that offering a level 3 course specific to each trade would best prepare a student for a level 4 practicum and for industry certification. So this decision is reflected in the 3 first reading courses that you find within that career cluster. As with every bundle of first reading courses, once approved by board, we immediately provide and encourage an open comment period in order to seek substantive feedback from the public. This period will begin today and will close shortly before prep work begins for the April board meeting. And I want to again make sure that that was aware for the board members today. With that, the Department of Education submits and recommends acceptance of these items on first reading.
Okay, questions, comments from Danielle? Okay, is there a motion that we approve on first reading B, C, and D? Got a motion? Is there a second? Got a second? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion's carried. B, C, and D approved on first reading. Item E.
I will stay put. So item E reflects course list, reflecting changes and additions to CT courses and AP courses. So this is board policy 3.205. As is typical, whenever course title changes are made or additions to courses are made, those are reflected within this list of courses, which is then used to kind of help provide that quick review for the public. And so with that, the Department of Ed also submits and recommends for acceptance on first reading.
Okay, questions? Is there a motion to approve on first reading? Got a motion? Second? Second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item E is approved. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Good job. We do appreciate, too, the great work that's been done on all these course standards. It really is a lot of work, and I guess from carrying this material around, we're glad to see it come to the end, but it really is good work, and we appreciate all the work that's been done there. Okay, item F, Cambridge. Emily.
Good morning. The Cambridge International Examinations is an internationally recognized provider of international education for students ages 5 to 19, offering a continuum of studies from primary levels to upper secondary. The courses are comparable in rigor to the International Baccalaureate and Advanced Placement courses. And the Cambridge International Examinations program is flexible. It can be tailored to students' interests and allow for enrollment in additional programs. Scores on the assessments for certain courses may meet requirements at top colleges and universities throughout the world. And Metro Nashville and Bradley County Public Schools are currently offering Cambridge courses. These school systems have made the commitment to offer Cambridge by offering both teacher training and maintaining the standards. The Tennessee Department of Education and the University of Tennessee and TBR have reviewed these courses and approved them as acceptable admissions requirement substitutes. The department has created and is seeking approval for the Cambridge program pathways to the Tennessee Diploma Project.
Okay, questions? We spent a good bit of time on this at the workshop yesterday, and I think it's a good understanding of what the Cambridge program is all about. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve on first reading? Got a motion? Second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. High school math pilot. Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think I will stay put here if that suits. This is an item that we also discussed yesterday at the board's workshop towards the end of the day. It's prompted by a request from Hawkins County and some of their industry partners, and again would provide, as we discussed yesterday, the opportunity to explore math pathways at the high school level to ensure that we have close connections with the evolving math requirements in our universities and post-secondary institutions, as well as in industry itself. This item, again, on first reading, would be asking our department staff in the CTE and CNI divisions to facilitate a working group to explore this issue of, again, looking at third and fourth year math offerings in a way that more closely connects with some of our post-secondary math requirements, and would require coming back in April to the board upon final reading with further details on the pilot and how we would move forward to explore this issue in terms of math offerings. I'm happy to take any additional questions that you may have.
Okay, and I might ask, Waylon Seaton is the CTE director at Hawkins County, and he's reviewed this proposal with us at our workshop back in October. Waylon, I'd like to get you to come up and identify some of the needs that your folks have identified for this change.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I want you to know the driving force behind this is to meet the needs of business and industry. If we don't meet their needs, they're going someplace else to look for a qualified skills workforce. So we've got to meet their needs. As we were developing a robotics program last year, working with engineers from Baldor, TRW, Eastman, and Mali, it became clear that the math skills that we're teaching in high school did not meet the needs of these students when they go into the workforce. So we started developing this program, the content of this math program, and we worked with those same engineers. We've also worked with the Tennessee College of Applied Technology in Marshtown, the Regional Center for Advanced Manufacturing in Kingsport. We've worked for the Center of Excellence with the ETSU to develop content that meets not only the need for these colleges and post-secondary institutions, but also the industry. They've been reviewing the materials, and I'll be glad to share it with you electronically if you would like. I've shared it with Dr. Haburn and the Commissioner, as well as Fielding Rossing in the last week. We have also had a conference call with Tristan Denley from TBR 2 weeks ago. He seemed receptive to the idea. He is currently reviewing the material. I've had a conversation with Dr. Katie High. She plans to come to Kingsport sometime in the next few weeks to meet with our group to discuss this as we move forward. As you look through the contents, you'll see that some of these topics have been covered in the past, but they will be revisited at a much higher level using relevant workplace experiences for these students. So it's kind of a consolidation of their learning as they move forward. And the only comment that we've had from the industry, they were all very pleased. They said that statistics needs to be added to this. So our suggestion is we have this course as a junior, and then they follow with statistics as a senior to prepare them for the workforce. And I'll entertain any questions you have of me.
Okay, questions for Sarah or Waylon?
It's
Mike?
my understanding that the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology are already embraced this.
Yes, sir. James King has been involved with us from the beginning as we develop this content.
One of the things that would be hopeful is that the regents in the UT system would recognize this as if a student wanted to go down a career path but then transfer over into a 2 or a 3 year program, going from electrician, electrical, whatever, that the articulation could be established so that we've often thought at the chamber that this type of math would serve students on a particular track very well. It would be very helpful if they had some ambidextry options to them as well. So that's more a statement to the two systems.
Okay. Comments, Cato?
Sir, I think you mentioned about setting up a task force, a group to work with this. Will we make sure that that task force has the broad representation other parts of the state, because we have the same problems in Shelby County, we have the same problems in Madison County, that we make sure we include all of those entities, because we're hearing the same thing from business and industry leaders. So you bring us in, you recruit us, but we don't have a skilled workforce. So I just want to make sure we mention.
Thank you. Yes, we'll ensure that that happens.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments or questions? I think that this is something that is very much needed to really include statistics, problem solving, critical thinking in the math program. I think is important, and I think we all see a real need to do this. Now, working through the details of getting the course standards put together and getting everybody in agreement, including higher education, with what we need, what we want to do here, I think is going to be critical. And the task force have a good job to work quickly and see if we can get that in line. Any additional questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve on first reading? And basically, what we're proving here is a concept that we want to move forward with, and we'll be coming back to the next meeting with course standards and additional detail. Okay, Mike, got a second, Cato. Any additional questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Well, thank you. Appreciate your work on this. Okay, we'll now move to the action items on final reading. The first is automatic revocation rule. Joanne?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This item is before you on final reading. The State Board may automatically revoke or deny a teaching license to individuals who have been convicted of certain offenses. And so this rule amendment adds a number of offenses to this list, which brings our rule into alignment with Public Chapter 844 of the 108th General Assembly. And there have been no changes since first reading. And State Board staff recommends acceptance on final reading.
Okay, questions for Joanne? Questions? Is there a motion to approve on final reading? Got a motion? Second? Okay, got a second. Any discussion, questions? Okay, this requires a roll call vote, so Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please.
Ms. Chansey? Aye. Mr. Edwards? Aye. Ms. Hartgrove? Aye. Mr. Johnson? Aye. Ms. Perry? Aye. Mr. Roberts? Aye. Mr. Ralston?
Aye. Okay, motion is approved. We'll now move to item B, uniform grading policy. Nathan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is on final reading, and it reflects a change made in the 108th General Assembly that made it clear that the LEAs had the authority to use the uniform grading policies in pre-K through 8 the same way they do in 9 through 12. There have been no changes since it was previously before you, and the staff recommends its passage and approval.
Questions? Motion to approve? Got a motion? Second? Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it, sir. Okay, we have removed item C, so we'll move to item D, charter school authorizer policy 6.8, 6.9. Yes?
Yes, thank you. So before you on final reading are two policies in regards to the role of the State Board as an appellate authorizer of charter schools. And there have been a few changes since first reading, so I did want to walk through them. They're also in the cover sheet, but just so that we're clear today. In regards to policy 6.8, the changes were made to make sure that it's clear that this policy would govern the process for in the areas of renewal of the appeal of a LEA's decision to deny a renewal of their own authorized school, any school that is authorized by the State Board of Education, how we would handle renewal, as well as the case of a school that's authorized by the State Board that decides to apply for renewal with the LEA, but then the LEA denies that renewal and they appeal to us. So just to clarify that this policy is covering all of those areas. Secondly, we made a change, and in the we were handed a cover sheet yesterday that updated. There was a typo around the section it referred to in the policy that covers a public hearing in the case of a state board school and how we would handle the renewal public hearing, so that the executive director would preside over that hearing, a state board staff member would present the case for renewal or non-renewal, and that the governing board would then have a chance to respond to that. So we just wanted to clarify, in the case there's not an LEA, who would be presenting for the state board. And then finally, in policy 6.9, we just clarified that in the case that an LEA has sponsored a charter school, that the decision of the state board is final in that case. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, questions? Any questions for Tess? Well, I believe we're getting to closure on all the policies that we have had to put in place to deal with charter schools here.
We're seeing the light, absolutely.
Okay. So that'd be another way to reduce some of the.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve on final reading? Got a motion? Second? Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Angie. Okay, item E, basic training high school course credit, policy and rule. Emily.
In February of 2014, the state legislature enacted a new law, Public Chapter 487, that authorized students who enter the U.S. military or National Guard through an early entry program and complete basic training before graduation from high school to use basic training in lieu of a high school course credit in lifetime wellness or in one or two elective courses. Students may choose which course or courses to substitute basic training for. This act took effect February 13th, 2014, and this item would revise the graduation requirements in board rule and policy to reflect this course substitution.
Okay, questions? Questions for Emily? Any questions? Is there a motion to approve on final reading? Got a motion? Nelson? Okay, any further discussion? Okay, this requires roll call, so Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please. Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you. I'm glad Phyllis asked about making sure she understood Mike. Sometimes we have trouble with that. Thank you, Emily. Okay, we'll now move to the course standards, and what I'd like to do is take items F through N, and also we could, your comments could cover all of those.
Yes, and they'll be brief. So items F through N reflect final reading course standards changes, and each of those items you have before you lists any changes that were made. Those are reflected through red line tracking, and those changes came about through our open comment period with stakeholders, and those comments that were substantive are reflected in those changes for items F through N.
Okay, any questions on items F through N? Is there a motion to approve on final reading? Got a motion, second. Cato? Any more discussion? Any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to item O. We've kind of pulled that out separately. Had a really good presentation on it yesterday, and we thought that we ought to focus a little bit specifically on that because of the interest expressed in it by a number of our board members. So
Yes, and first off, I do want to thank each board member for their interest in the support that was shared to me throughout the day yesterday and following the THEC presentation, also in Pathways Tennessee. I think that as a state, we are very well positioned to turn the corner in the discussions around education industry and how those braid together in order to have a more qualified workforce for Tennessee, allowing it to have that strategic advantage over its peer states. And I do believe that the work-based learning career practicum course is one of those critical pieces that will move forward, particularly obviously within the K-12 system itself. So item O is a reflection of the Work-Based Learning Career Practicum course. As shared within the presentation yesterday, this course has undergone significant revision to reflect the broader work-based learning program or initiative that we have statewide. The expectation is for this practicum course to be one that would be available in 11th or 12th grade as a capstone experience for students, whether that student is concentrating within a CTE program of study or a student who is simply moving through his or her high school requirements and wish to do a practicum in his or her 11th or 12th grade year in order to gain additional experience going into post-secondary.
Okay. Lonnie, you want to make any comments in support of this?
Well, I mean, I just think this is tremendous work that you all have done, and I've been in business all of my life, and looking for that qualified work staff. This, to me, brings together something that's been needed for a very long time, and I'm really appreciative of a lot of work that's gone into this to get it to where it is today, and I think this is going to make a big difference as we move forward across the state of Tennessee. So thank you for doing a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Cato, you chimed in yesterday too.
One, I think, and I give kudos to the staff. This is excellent work. And those of us who've been on the recruitment end of bringing in industries, it is disheartening that after a couple of years when the industry comes back to you and says, all the promises you made to us, you're not keeping any of those promises. So I think you've done excellent work. This is something, I agree with Lonnie, this is going to make a tremendous difference. And I applaud the department for doing this.
Thank you.
And one of the things I think we all recognize is that while there is a lot of interest in this, expressed interest by businesses, we now are going to need to turn to businesses to provide some of the opportunities for this work-based experience, and it's critical that they step up and help with that dimension of the thing. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I want to echo that. First of all, I want to say not just on this issue, but on everything that we've voted on up till now. A lot of what we voted on today really goes to the workforce, directly to skilling up people ready to go into great paying jobs that incidentally a lot of companies are going to find, but they're going to import them from, if they have to, from other states, leaving Tennesseans without those jobs because we haven't skilled them up. And everything that the department has brought us and that we are supporting goes to skilling up Tennesseans, and that is a huge, huge deal for the prosperity of this state. The second thing is what the chairman has said is absolutely true, and I'm preaching to myself and my colleagues and cohorts in the economic development and in the chamber world. This thing doesn't work unless the employers in all of the various sectors do not participate aggressively in these programs. That for the first time in my memory, the platform is there. It is provided. It works for the student. It provides the LEAs everything that they need to be able to facilitate these without risk. But now it's incumbent upon folks like me. one other thing. Kids coming out of college work real hard to find internships prior to graduation because they know it's necessary for them to get a job as opposed to those who didn't get internships. That's exactly what we're talking about for high school students. It is this work practicum is an internship that validates to that employer this person's ready, and hats off to you guys, and shame on us in my world if we don't do our part. I make a motion that we do
Okay,
this.
got a motion? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Additional discussion, comments, questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Danielle, we really do appreciate the work that's been done on these core standards. A lot of work, and I think we've gotten much better case than we've had them before. So it's a really big improvement there, and we thank you for the good work.
I owe it to all my staff who are here and those who are not.
Okay, great. We appreciate it. Okay, next item, item P, planning time rule. Joanna?
This item is before you on final reading, and this rule change tracks legislation that clarifies that teachers are entitled to individual duty-free planning periods, and there have been no changes since first reading, and State Board staff recommends acceptance on final reading.
Okay, Allison, you want to make that a motion? Okay, got a second? Any questions, discussion? Okay, this requires a roll call, so Phyllis, if you could call roll, please.
Ms. Chancellor. Aye. Mr. Edward. Ms. Hartgrove. Aye. Mr. Johnson. Aye. Ms. Perry. Aye. Mr. Roberts. Aye. Mr. Ralston.
Aye.
Ms. Tucker. Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. That's approved on final reading. Now move to item Q, and Paul, teacher preparation programs.
Good morning, and
Morning.
we bring a recommendation for our 5 education preparation providers. That's the first key. Good morning, and we bring again the recommendation for the 5 education preparation providers for continuing approval. 4 of those for the full 7 years, and 1 for 2 years, as discussed in yesterday's workshop. And happy to take questions at this time.
Again, we had I think a good review of this in the workshop yesterday. Any questions for Paul?
Well, I understand a time length of 7 years. Is there any recourse should the wheels absolutely fall off at some point that you can intervene within that 7-year period?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's certainly within the authority for the state and for the department and the state board for site visits, for ongoing feedback from those institutions, especially as you mentioned, if in that cycle there was, within that 7-year cycle, there were problems that are facing the program.
If I could add to that too, again, we discussed briefly yesterday, but the policy that the board voted on in October of 2014, which are new standards that we'll be moving to over the next year and a half with all of our teacher prep programs, that will require annual reporting and will have provisions for more interim steps that will be clear and transparent. As Paul said, we can take steps now as a state board and with the department's support, but it'll be more clearly laid out in the policy that you passed in October as we move to those new standards under CAPE.
Right. I think that annual reporting will be key.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve on final reading, item Q? Got a motion? Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, Paul, you're still up.
All right.
Instructional leader preparation programs.
Right. So we also bring a recommendation, as noted in yesterday's workshop, for 20 of our leader preparation programs. 16 recommended for full approval, and again, that's for that 7 years span. And then 4 for conditional approval for 1 year, as noted in yesterday's workshop and the discussion around. Appreciate the discussion and questions for the difference between the full and the conditional on the leader prep side.
Okay, questions, comments? You know, I think that, well, both of these, the item we just approved for teacher preparation and the leader preparation programs are really critical processes for us. And we're moving more and more to outcome measures. I think that we've got to continue to do that and work on that and see if we can't get the data systems in place and so forth that permits us to really focus more on the outcome side and not be totally dependent on the input. So
Yeah, and I think that's where we're moving in the right direction and on all of these processes as well.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve item R? Got a motion? Second? Got a second? Got a second. Okay. Any questions, discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Okay. We'll now move to some of the teacher items. The first item is the student loan default, student assistance corporation defaults, and Joanne.
Yes, hi. So before you is a list of individuals who have defaulted on student loans and have been notified by the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation, or TSAC. TSAC provides 90 days notice for educators to come into compliance, and the State Board of Education provides another 30 days notice to make arrangements with TSAC. So educators have at least 120 days notice before their licenses are suspended. Upon notification of compliance, the State Board requests reinstatement of the educator's license. And the State Board staff recommends action on this list, and you will be voting on the amended list that you received at the workshop.
Okay, questions? Joanne? Note that we really don't have any choice in this. We're just pretty much following what we need to do. We've approved a lot of these, and is there more in the pipeline? How many more are out there, or they just keep coming, it seems like?
Yeah, so we get new ones every week, but we also get notifications of individuals who've come into compliance every week. So.
And I guess we've continued to make the assumption that these are people that are probably not teaching. They're not in teaching jobs. Is that?
Many of them are, because our office has been contacted by school systems asking why an individual's license is under review.
Okay, so many of them are teaching. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, this is a large number of people, but when you consider the number of teachers out there and the number of teachers in the state that have student loans, really this is a very small percentage.
It is, yeah. Okay. Any questions, discussion? Okay, is there a motion to approve? Got a motion? Second? Second. Any discussion? Okay, this requires a roll call, so Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please.
Ms. Chancellor? Mr. Edwards? Ms. Hargrove? Mr. Johnson? Ms. Perry? Mr. Roberts? Mr. Ralston?
Aye.
Ms. Thompson?
Okay, the motion is approved. Now move to the teacher license actions, and Joanne, you're still up.
Under State Board Rule 0520-2-4-.019B, the State Board may revoke, suspend, formally reprimand, or refuse to issue or renew a license for good cause. And the State Board Review Committee recommends licensure action for the individuals in this item.
And we depend on the staff to go through these carefully and make sure that the actions being recommended are in accordance with our guidelines and also comply with the previous actions that we've taken for teacher license. Any questions for Joanne?
just have a comment. I just wanted to note that I had some questions and that the staff was very receptive and was able to answer all my questions. So I don't have any today.
Good. Okay. Hey, that's a all-time first, I think. Okay. Any discussion or questions? Is there a motion that we approve the staff recommendations? Got a motion? Second? Got a second? Any discussion? Okay, it requires roll call, so Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please.
Ms. Chansey? Mr. Edward? Mark Rudd? Mr. Johnson? Ms. Perry? Mr. Roberts? Mr. Ralston?
Aye.
Ms. Tucker?
Okay, the motion is approved. Before we adjourn, let me just say that I think we've had really great meetings here the last 2 days. We had an excellent session with the teacher council, teacher advisory council. Had lunch with them yesterday. Had a really good workshop, good meeting with THEC last night, and then actions that are taken here today. So good weekend, good end of the week here. I guess it's not to the weekend yet, but I think some important things, and I think we're making real progress and look forward to future progress. We will be meeting in April the 10th, July the 24th, and October the 23rd, meetings for the remainder of this year. With that, appreciate you being here. The meeting is adjourned.
Well done, Chairman.
It's great.